in there. I'm going to share now the screen and kind of get into what we're going to discuss today. So bear with me.
Hello.
Okay, can you guys see the screen now?
Again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we can. I can see it.
okay.
Yes, I can.
I what I want to do is touch on several topics. Sorry, I'm trying to get it to work right. Uh, and I'm gonna start off with my theme. If we are capable of believing together, together we can do many things. Today, I want to not talk about history, but I think that we can create new history. And I think that's what we're talking about in a sense. We can create new history that, Nubia, as you said, our younger people can pick it up and run with it, right? And doing that is just one element of history. But the subject today, I want to kind of also highlight some of the things the group has accomplished. If you guys heard Lemon Black, African Unite, very proud that we have that song that was developed because of what our efforts are. We're currently connected with United Culture of Africa. Some of you guys may be unaware of that group, but they are gaining support across the continent. There's over 20 nations that have united politically and as well with the legal documents to make some connections that does not exist presently. But United Culture of Africa is working in that direction. We are involved in it. One of our members, Evelyn Ray, is working to develop a song that's going to highlight the unification of the diaspora with Africa. So we're looking in that direction. Also, if you guys might recall, we did the Diaspora in Africa Friday event. We're going to do that every year. Um, Last year was the beginning. It was not as big as I thought it was going to be. But that's never a problem because when you start off on anything, things are always not as to the point for which you want them to be. So I don't have a problem with that. Now
Tyrone,
we're looking, go on.
I wish we would do it more frequently than once a year.
Well, let's see, can we get it started? And if it merit that we can get people for the Diaspora in Africa Friday event, everybody, that's simply instead of we know the Black Friday event in America is absolutely big in America, but the Diaspora in Africa Friday event is about us supporting our Black businesses, whether they're in Africa or in America. And Kenny, to your point, I think if we get it started, we can do it in Black History Month as well. So we look forward to doing that, okay? So our today's discussion centered around the scripture. I'm not a scholar in terms of that area of expertise, but in Genesis, I think everybody can identify with 126, right? And God said, let us make man in our image, in after our likeness. Um, Today, after I have meditated on this for months about it, I've shared some of my ideas with some of the members already who are in here. Uh, I think we have something that we agree upon moving forward with the idea. It might be very meaningful if we are able to implement it. And that's why I need to have an open discussion today about the image. Who did God make in his image that's presently on the earth? Um, the other thing is, these are some of the images that I pulled off of Google. Images of man, I guess, the image of God. And you guys see anybody in there that's Black? I'm just wondering. I don't see anybody that reflects us as people, the Black race. But the Europeans are those who made these paintings. You see this guy right here. This apparently is a white god reaching down to the image that he made on earth, which is a white man. And we see these are the hands of God, and they are images of a white-handed God. And all these other images are representative of how certain people have decided to take what God said, let us make man in our image and likeness, be that of a white human being. And but is that so? Is it true? Is the white man actually in the image of God? Nubia, you can get into more detail than I can with that. But here's some of the things I had. Who would be considered as the first man and woman created in the image and the likeness of God? That's a question you guys might want to think about. And what has happened to the man and woman who was created in the image and the likeness of God? So I'm opening it up for a discussion. Who would you consider to be the first human beings that was created in the image and the likeness of God? Anybody care to open up about that?
Well, the first human beings that we know of were Africans, were people on the African continent. In the fact that, I always said God had a team, according to the Bible. He said we are creating in our image. So who is our? When God said that, if you think about that statement. But the first human beings that existed on the continent of Africa, that were Homo sapiens sapien. There were a lot of other different beings, the Keniapithecus, Australopithecus, Homo sapien, and Neanderthals, which were German and didn't exist on the African continent. But these beings, some of them developed into Homo sapiens sapien. And they were all the ones that developed in the Homo sapiens sapien more than 1.5 million years ago were in Sudan. And those people developed one of the most highly developed civilizations that spread out all over to the continent of Africa, in which we are all relatives of. And typically people say, well, everybody came from Africa. But actually the other lines of beings didn't develop until about 7,000 years ago. Fully developed until about 7,000 years ago. So that's my comment.
So those pictures that I depicted, just for a point of discussion, really doesn't represent, if we would say that the first human beings that were created lived in Africa, those pictures did not depict them correctly, right?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay.
And Brother Tyrone, this is Shemaiah.
Go on, my brother.
Very interesting topic, very insightful, and which requires when we look at images.
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you very well. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. When you analyze how we got here and how we look at images, one of the things in scripture as well, one of the things that the colonial powers have done is use images to dictate what we view as a higher power. When in actuality, throughout scripture, the Almighty said, have no images of things above or things below. But we are the essence, the so-called black man and woman is the essence of the creativity, the first creativity of the Almighty. And because when we look at that word God, some people say God, some people say Elohim.
Yes.
God and Elohim and man are similar in how you really understand its full definition, because they are uniplural terms. God is uniplural, Elohim is uniplural, man is uniplural. What makes it singular is when you put something added to you know, like the Most High Almighty or the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Uh, but when we really digress and look at the term God or Elohim is plural, I went through a very deep discussion about Genesis and to relate some of the things that and different forms of creation, different creations from Genesis, which is a whole nother subject matter. But to stay on task and topic about what we're talking about the empowerment of our people and for us to identify our greatness with the Almighty. And so sent for that. And, you know,
Yes.
to let everybody know on the call, you know, with the idea that you present to me, elder, I call you elder because you have carry a lot of wisdom. And so when you brought that to my attention, I have been very eager to discuss it, and I do apologize for being late because I did have an accident, and I still have to take care of that. But I'm okay. I'm
Sorry.
okay. And nothing physical happened to me. It's just a bruised ego right now, but it's okay.
Okay.
Um, but to say that what I want to also let everybody know, whatever direction we want to go in on how you present that idea to us, I want to let you know that when I say myself, I have developed a international company called the Economic Diaspora Development Enterprise. It is recognized as a foreign trust entity in the United States, but it also has several possibilities of engaging with other businesses in the United States. And it is also set up in Liberia as a foreign corporation. And so one of the ideas of it is to bring other businesses, funnel them through the diaspora back to Al-Kibalan. You know, we talk about going back to Al-Kibalan and moving, but we have to take our ingenuity. We have to take our skill set. We have to take what the oppressors have placed upon us for their benefit and turn it around for our greatness. Donald Trump wants to make America great. Let us make Al-Kibalan great. And I say Al-Kibalan, many say Africa, but I say Al-Kibalan because I have divorced myself from all of those terminologies that the European has imposed upon us because they carry a degree of control. And I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but I just want to let everybody know your idea, Elder Tyrone, I'm in full support, and whatever you need me to do, whatever the members on here need to do, I'm ready to do it.
Listen, I'm grateful to you, my brother, for making it in spite of what you have dealt with, which shows your dedication. And I'm grateful to you. So we're talking about image. We're going to get a little bit more into what image has, or lack of understanding who our image happens to be, how it has us in the predicament that we are today, in my opinion. Anybody else want to share their thoughts on this? Who would you consider to be the first man or woman? And guys, I have to have a discussion base today. It's not the time to be quiet. No matter if you're consenting with what has been said, that's wonderful. But I need pushback. I need all kinds of different discussions. I need you to be yourself.
Well, Tyrone, I
Yes,
have
sir.
a real strange position on this topic.
Very good.
The thing that get me the most and seem to confuse a lot of people is that in Genesis it said, "Let us create man." Adam and Eve. They had 2 children. Their children got married. Who they get married to? So to me, it seems like Adam and Eve story is just a project because people already existed. They had to exist for Cain and Abel to get married. So
Right.
I think the Adam and Eve story is a project trying to deliver a message that we refuse to accept. Man had already been here on earth long before the Adam and Eve story came about. Because if Cain and Abel got married, they married someone's children who had to have a generation before them to have their children, who had to have a generation before them. So what the young lady said about Africa being the birthplace of mankind, I agree. We got to come out that box that we've been stuck in, believing that Adam and Eve was the first creations. They wasn't the first creation. They couldn't have been, again, if their children married somebody.
Well, go on,
let
but
me
listen,
inter-
let me say this. The Adam and Eve that we have been projected, I don't know if that's you guys that I've seen, and Mr. Ross, I'm gonna let you please express your opinion. All those Adams have been white, all those Eves have been white, but my mouth is closed, Mr. Ross, please, go forward.
Oh, okay. Well, we all agree that the first Homo sapiens sapien were black. Whites came about through some mutation stuff, like you say, 8,000 years ago. Before that, what they say, you could look at the idea of cheddar man. Okay, yeah, cheddar man, da da da. Okay, black man in Great Britain and all of that. Okay, so the Genesis story. What's the Genesis story? Okay, it was who wrote it? Supposedly Moses. Okay, who supposedly was Moses? An Egyptian. Okay, an Egyptian that took off and gave his people a story. That's what Genesis, that's what Sigmund Freud tends to say in Moses and monotheism, and that's what made a whole bunch of Jews turn against Sigmund Freud, him saying, whoa, Moses was a Egyptian prince. Okay, so where are we in this? Okay, idea. Genesis talks about people being 400 years in the land not their own, and will da da da, and then it moves on
Hello?
to, and that tends to be us. Okay, we're special, and some idea.
Hello?
I hear you. Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry, so, someone was calling me. Go on, brother.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And just okay. Shemaiah, in the idea of us leaving, hey, that would be, well, a bunch of us left once before for Liberia, and we didn't do too good. We've got to get ourselves, I believe we have to get ourselves together here as quickly as possible. Okay, we need to get ourselves together here as quickly as possible. And I'll put it out there. I have a 10-year Black Growth and Development Plan. Go to blackgrowthanddevelopment.com. What do you say? Because we can't move forward without a plan. Okay? If you ask the NAACP or the Urban League or da 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 da, what's the plan to get us? And I don't know what the plan is. If it was better than my plan, they'd get $1,000 from me. But I'm saying we're a special people. Okay,
Right.
we're a special people. It could be looked at what's happening in Gaza and so forth. Okay, some idea of the Jews as some chosen people is like those Jews. No, but it says in the Bible, what can I say? I'm not a Bible quote. I only know a few verses, okay? And one has to do with Matthew 3:9, where John the Baptist is talking to some other Jewish leaders and say, hey, you think y'all special just because you're children of Abraham? God could create children of Abraham out of these rocks, okay, for that blessing of 400 years. What will happen and so forth. That's us. And I believe if we get ourselves together, we get America together, we get the world together. But looking for others to do what we have the power to do. That's just me.
Wonderful. If nobody else have anything to shed light about, I'm going to move to the next slide. Here's the thought. I want you guys. Go on. I'm sorry.
Tyrone, and I'm sorry to stop you right
No,
there.
no, go on. Go on.
So, what I wanted to say was, can you hear me still?
Yeah, clearly,
Okay.
very clearly. Thank you, my brother.
Okay. Hallelujah. So, when we look at the Genesis, as I briefly mentioned, and I'm not going to take too much of your time, but it's funny that this subject came up because I deal with this often. And as I said earlier, the term God and Elohim are uniplural. And when it said, let us make man, it really means that. But what we have to look at and understand, when we say terms like the Most High or Almighty, why did we say Most High? That's because there were other high ones. And there's a particular power that's the Most High. And then we say Almighty because there were other mighty ones, and there's a particular power that's above all of those. And when we look at Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and we really dissect it, it has been taught several different ways through religion and Christianity, and they have tied Genesis 1 and 2 together. But if you really pay attention to the details of Genesis 1 and 2, they are different creations. The Genesis 1 is in reference to the Elohim making their man in the image and likeness of the Elohim. And it's when it says, let us make man, those are the conglomeration of the Elohim. And the Most High allowed it, and they made their man in their image and in their likeness. And how do we know it's a different creation? Because in Genesis 1, it says, in the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. Well, when you go into Genesis chapter 2, when the Most High Almighty, who happens to be the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, the one who created Israel, he made Adam and Eve from the earth. He formed man from the dust of the ground, and they became a living soul. In Genesis 1, that particular creation wasn't created like that. And then if you look at the chronological order in Genesis 1 and 2 is different as well. In Genesis 1, all of the elements, the herbs and the beasts of the field, the fowl and the beasts in the water were created before the Elohim said, let us make man. That was the last of their creation. But when you go into Genesis 2, the first of the creation is Adam. And then he put Adam in the Garden of Eden. And then he said that he needed a helpmate. And then that first helpmate were the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air and of the water. It was a different creation, even with the animals. And then the last part of that creation, he said Adam needed another helpmeet, a companion, which was the woman. And he brought forth the woman, and her name is woman, because she comes from the opening of a womb of a man. So man is both male and female. You know, male and female both constitutes man. And so when we look at the analytics of Genesis 1 and 2, and we really pay attention, there's really a lot going on that we have not paid attention to in religion. The religious teachings of that have been very loose and very tainted, because a lot of times, you know, a lot of people read over words and teach over words when each word has a significant meaning when you're dealing with the understanding of the Genesis. And I agree with my brother that mentioned about the 400 years. He said to Abram before he named him Abraham. And it's funny, Avram or Abram means father. And he called him Ham, which is also, he was a father of Ham, although his lineage was through Shem, which meant that he was going to occupy the lands of the Hamitic people. So you have two different kinds of, quote unquote, we say black people on the planet. You have Shemitic and Hamitic. And when you look at Noah and you look at Shem, Ham, and Japhet, Japhet is the Gentile nations. And the Gentile nation, and we look at Christianity, we have been taught in different settings in Christendom that black people, no matter Hamite or Shemite, that they're Gentiles. But that is not the case. Gentile has everything to do with a physical descent. If you go look in Genesis chapter 10, it will tell you very explicitly that it tells you, starts off with the seed of Japhet. And he said, these are the isles of the Gentiles and their lands and in their divisions. And then it goes into the Hamitic people, and then it goes into the Shemitic people. And it's important to understand the difference, as just like my brother said earlier about we are those Israelite people, but you have a group of people today called Semites, and you hear this term anti-Semitism. Well, in order to know what anti-Semitism is, you first must know what Semitism is. And the common understanding of anti-Semitism is hatred towards Jews. Well, in order for that to be the definition of anti-Semitism, then Semitism would have to mean, by definition, favoritism for Jews. Well, that's a misnomer. That's a misunderstanding, and that's not true. There are Semitic people. Semitic people is not about a religious group, and it's not about a national or ethnic group of people per se. It is, when you look up Semites, there are 5 different languages that they consider Semitic languages. And one of those happens to be Arabic. Then it's Yiddish, it's Aramaic, you know, and there's 2 more that escapes me right now, but those are some. So the definition of Semitism is one who speaks one of those 5 languages. And in order to be truly an anti-Semite, you would have to be against people that speak those languages. It has nothing to do with this bastardized term called Jew, because there was no J in the Hebraic language. And please forgive me, because I hate to, you know, these things are very important, and I'm sorry for being long-winded about this, but to set the tone for that is one of the things that we set. When I say we, and my elder Tyrone knows that I am the chief executive officer for the United Nation of Israel. And our slogan is our nation, your nation, one nation under the Most High Almighty. And so when we really dive into the image and essence of our Elohim, the Most High Almighty that created Israel, we are dealing with us as a people, quote unquote, the so-called black man. When in reality, again, that's another term that's not true. There is no real black people on the planet, just like there's no real white people on the planet. But they use terms to control. And, our educational system, whether it be here in the United States or whether it be abroad, has been utilized to build their society. I'm an engineer by education. And this is going to be my last point, Elder Tyrone, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you can go ahead and continue.
Oh,
but
brother.
the educational system, we have to realize what we have been in. The educational system, the whole process from graduation, from preschool to the university, is a Masonic rite, a Masonic order. And when we look at that, to understand that, that's why you got the black gown and the flat hat on your head. And when you graduate, and you got a tassel on it, and you flip it to the other side to show that you've made it, and you throw the hat up in the air. I'm gonna briefly explain what this is. In masonry, the real physical masons, which the speculative mason come from, we're dealing with the different orders. It comes from actual masons, going back to Egypt and Babylon and things of that nature. But the masons, when you put brick upon brick, you have to use mortar to place a brick on top of another brick. So, and that mortar is used to hold up a structure. So when we go back to the educational process, when we get educated, whether it's in America, whether it's in Alkebulan, wherever, the educational system is how they are pouring into your head the mortar to shape your mind so that you can continue to be their mortar to put between the bricks to hold up their society. And so when they teach you and they educate you, it's for the benefit of their society. And when you're putting mortar on bricks, you have a thing called a trowel. Those that know anything about bricklaying, this trowel you put the mortar on top of, and you take that mortar and you smooth it over the top of the bricks. Well, when you graduate from the university or from any institution, you are holding up that graduation hat on top of your head. And that head, on top of your head, is your knowledge. That's where they put and shaped your mind to continue to hold up their society. And that's why the hat is flat. And when you take that tassel and take it from one side of to the other, that means you have been thoroughly indoctrinated into their system. And then when you take that hat off your head, you throw it up in the air, and contrary to popular belief, that goes back to the Tower of Babel, when they went up to go up to the tower, and the arrow was shot into the clouds. That hat symbolizes, when you throw it up in the air, symbolizes you ascending above the clouds and doing the same thing that they did when they shot that arrow up into the sky. And again, my elder Tyrone, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to just express myself. You said you wanted to have some expression, so I wanted to give it to you.
I
Man,
like it.
don't you
I
dare
like
think
it.
that what you've shared with us is something that you should not have. You're here because that's what you need to do. You need to be here, and you need to tell us and teach us, because that's what you are here for. And I thank you.
Thank you.
I want to recognize we have Brother Means who's been suffering with food sickness. I thank you, Brother Means. And another party that came in, I see just the number, the name of the cell phone, is a Samsung. Whomever that might be, if you will, please recognize if you haven't spoken before. Brother Means, I want to welcome you, okay? Okay, so this part of the discussion, and we were talking about image. And Brother Shemaiah, you've done elder, you did an exceptional job for making us aware who we are, why we might be who we are, and don't even know what purpose we are fulfilling because it's by design that's been set up by the system that we live in. So I wanted to capture some of the thoughts about images. The Jews consider themselves to be God chosen people. They consider themselves to be that way. That's what I've heard all my life. It might be different with somebody else. That's what I've heard. The white race believe that they are the superior race on the earth. They show that every day of the week and every week of the month and every month of the year that they are the superior people. Other races, whoever they might be, seem to follow that destination that they too have a sense of superiority. But what I put in red is, sorry, trying to make sure everybody can see it. What about the black race? How do we consider ourselves? How do we view ourselves as people? And furthermore, how does those other races on the earth view us as people? Are we the lowest scale of humanity? Then it goes back to Genesis. God created man in his image. If we are the original people on the earth, what happened to our image? Why is it that we don't acknowledge who we are by our image? Have we been so battered through the centuries of not believing in who we are, and we have accepted by the mere elements of what we do overall, who we are by the mere fact that the white race colonizing us in many ways have destroyed who we really are as people, and we have given into those points being destroyed. That's why I think we have to kind of center our discussion about image. Let me go on another point. Here's my thought, guys. It's going to lead up to the bigger thing. What if we could together develop an event to celebrate the actual first human beings being made in the image of God in his likeness? What if we could create an event? Think about that. And then furthermore, let's kind of escalate when would we celebrate that event? What if we take December the 25th? You guys all know about what that celebration is about. But also, if we can together develop a concept of celebration in the image of the Most High, Elohim, Jehovah, whatever you might want to say, that we take that date, December the 25th, around the world for people of color, specifically Black people, to celebrate our image, or the image of God. And think about this. If Jews see themselves as God-chosen people, if white people believe that they are superior, that's their image. That's who they see themselves as being. But we've some sort of way lost the understanding along the way of our being on this earth that God made us in his image. And I think we've lost the way. So what I am asking for everyone to throw in for a point of discussion, do you think it would be an idea if we together got together to develop an event that little Black kids can grow up and say, I am in the image of God. Little kids in Africa see themselves as the image and the likeness of God. Because I don't think people see themselves for who they are. I think they come up into the environment for which they have been put into, and they don't see themselves as being as significant, as important as they really are. They lost sight of their image. So I'm proposing for you guys, let's have an open discussion that do you think we together, all of us in here, if you agree to it, can work together to develop an event on December the 25th. And you might ask, why December the 25th? Think about it. That is the one uniform celebration of the year. That's all around the earth is celebrated. Okay. Now, I will tell you that I don't think there was any birth that occurred on December 5th. I'm not going to get into that. That is a debate within itself. But out for discussion now, if you guys think and believe, and by the way, Evelyn, I thank you for coming in. And I know it's not the best of time for you to be here, but I thank you very much, okay? So I'm open up for a discussion. Dr. Cook, I think I shared that idea with you. Nubian, I know I shared it with you as well. And Brother Samaya, and I think, Evelyn, I think I may have mentioned it to you about us together developing an event that could take place on December the 25th, where Black people celebrate themselves being the actual people on the earth that was made in the image and the likeness of the Most High.
I
Elohim
think
or God. Go on,
I think
please.
I think that's a process. You know, we have to decolonize our mindset.
Right.
We know that the Bible is a collection of works from many different places, many different spaces in time. That it was adapted of mainly and wholly from the book of songs and prayers and incantations that were from ancient Egypt in the Nicene Conference was put into place because the world was debunking the Christ story, and because they knew that this came from the Holy Trinity, which was Aset, Asir, and Heru, the true, Holy Trinity. And the Bible, of course, was written, at least the King James version, which is the most popular version in the Western world in the United States, was written by William Shakespeare and King James. Francis Bacon being the pen name of Shakespeare. It's a process to get people to the reason why the images were taken out of these three Black images is because basically the Romans saw people as worshiping Black people, because Black people at that time from ancient Kemet, before, we talk about the transition from Kemet to Egypt, it means when it became Egypt, it became dominated by the Western world, Greeks and Romans. But they were still worshiping these three forms that were Black, African, woman, and man. And they did not see, and I want to correct myself, due to Brother Shemaya's representation and what he was saying. They didn't consider themselves as one landform. It wasn't El Kiblan, it wasn't Africa. They were nationalists. So they considered themselves part of the nation of Kemet, the part of the nation of Egypt. But they also adapted when these other cultures came until the Romans decided to change the game plan. And it went from there, it went through another phase, and then it went to the totally Christian phase and merged with a lot of the folklore and a lot of the cosmological and spiritual systems from the eastern Northeast Africa, because the bones of Atum or Adam or Atum are housed in Lalibela, one of the oldest Christian churches, and which means that before Christianity that time, that there were spiritual systems in place in Africa. So again, we have to decolonize the minds and get people to see that they are all divine beings. And when they're talking about the Most High, many times they're talking about true celestial occurrences, because the Most High being, the earth being created according to the oldest language in the world, which is over 6,000 years, is the Egyptian language, that the world was created by noon, which is a substance that, for lack of a better term, in translation, was a watery substance, which was probably a watery gaseous substance in between the gaseous in liquid state. And so that whole piece is what formed the physical earth. And that's where these things come from. The book of Psalms directly come in from the book of songs from ancient Egypt that are incantations, and the Bible was directly taken from there. But to get people from Christianity, from Islam, which everybody, it comes from the Nile Valley region, really coming before ancient Kemet came ancient Kush. And all these, Amen was a physical person that lived on Tuwat, on a mountain. And all of the religions say Alameen, Amin, Amin, Amen, Amen, Omun. And we really have to get people to understand that Black people are divine people. And that's what they meant by God, that we were all gods, that we're all living gods. We are all made in the image of the Most High, which being the celestial being that formed the celestial circumstance, which was more or less chemical formation of the cosmos that formed human beings, which is divine. And so the things that people call Egyptian myth are really scientifically, have scientific base of how they saw the world being formed. Even the word chemistry coming from the word chem, which means black, coming from the black matter. So if we can get people to understand that, and that's a hell of a task, excuse my word, to get people to understand how that the world was Black seat superiority at one time, because there was nothing else. These people, these Romans and Greeks, came from the universities, came to study in the universities, stole the stuff and claimed it as their own. I'd say 98% of the world does not know that fact. And so, I mean, it's a big task you're asking, a task that's so sensitive and volatile. People will kill for something like this. Not saying be scared to do it, but I'm just saying this is a big task. And how to go among that, you know, Michelangelo's cousin is Jesus. You know what I'm saying? He presented Jesus in a cousin that he thought was very nice looking,
Yes.
and he used him as the model. So most people are using that image. You know, the Shrine of the Black Madonna, which got the story right, they're a small group of people that worship God as the woman, because the Catholic Church basically is worshiping Osset. You know what I'm saying? Who was worshipped all over the world. So the image of Christ who is the Most High or the Anointed One is actually a woman that's married. So we want to celebrate the birth of the Anointed One, who happened to be in the first time was Mary, you know, who was worshipped as the Most High, that she birthed the seed from, you know, immaculate conception, which means really, it means you've only had one man. It doesn't mean that you were spiritually injected by the Holy Spirit, which they took Mary out of the Holy Trinity and turned it into the Holy Spirit. And her name actually comes from the beloved, from the land of Tarmary. So this is a process to pull the blindfolds off of people's eye and try to get them recenter them into the truth. The truth is not something that people want to see. There's been 400 years of pain inflicted on people to blindfold them in this way.
Well,
Now-
you know, earlier, guys, and Mr. Ross, I'm going to let you chime in. Earlier, I stated we were talking about creating new history. Okay, so new history means that we want to go back. If we can get a collaboration of people to understand what the mission is, to take off the blindfolders that's been put there. So young African male and or female can wake up to see themselves as being made in the image of the Most High, Elohim, Jehovah, whatever name might be prevalent. If they see themselves, if they see their image as being that way, what will that do? Will a young Black man with a gun in his hand walk up to another Black man and say, no, I cannot shoot you because you are created in his image like I am? What would be the positive impact, I think, is what I'm trying to go with. But Mr. Ross, please, sir. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah. I was going to tell a story about when I talked to an alderman in Chicago a couple of days ago, past alderman, about the situation with J.P. Morgan could wind up giving millions of dollars to HBCUs and so forth if this information was brought forward. And he said, Black people don't care about that. And I thought, that's- yeah, he's right. But if they were made aware of it, okay. Now, I'll say again, I'm not gonna say I'll say one more time like this will be the last time I say it. Please look at the website. Please write it down. blackgrowthanddevelopment.com. Okay? The telephone number's not my same number, but the email is Lawrence@blackgrowthanddevelopment.com. There's a method to solve our problem, okay? And the plan is the 10-year Black Growth and Development Plan. Solves everything. What do you say? Trying to get people to think different? That's in the 10-year Black Growth and Development Plan. Okay. I'm
Mr.
finished.
Ross,
Continue.
would you
Yes.
be so nice to copy the link and put it into the chat?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I will.
Okay, everyone, this is not a stopping point. This is really a start point. And I really appreciate Nubia being on today. I thought it was pertinent to have her here, to be very honest, because she and I had a brief discussion, and with that discussion itself, it told me that I need people with a broader range of thought than I have. And Shemaiah certainly has expressed his opinion. And but for those who have just come into the meeting, if you care to open up, if you have any thoughts about what we're talking about doing, and what the concept that I would love to think that we can do if we want to make new history is to set the image to the Black person on the planet Earth. You are the image of God and the likeness of God. So, and again, what would be the positive that will come out of this concept? Obviously, there's going to be a whole lot of people that's going to be unhappy, because when people start walking around, hopefully not arrogantly, but understanding who they are on this earth in such ways that presently they don't know who they are, in my opinion. I've seen so many people in Africa who just don't understand who they are. They really don't. They don't see themselves as being in the image of Elohim, the Most High, Jehovah, whatever name that might be prevalent. I don't think they see themselves that way. So they struggle through the world that they were made to be living upon. They were placed in the most wonderful part of the earth, Africa, because if you look at the natural resources, nobody else have those resources. But the Africans have those things there. And I say this is another way to look at it. Africans should have the highest middle class population in the world, but we know that's not true in terms of income. We know that's not true. So somewhere along the way, the image of who the African man and African woman happen to be got lost along the way of this concept of life that we all live in. And if you think that we can, I guess the word repurpose might be applicable, but other words certainly would apply. If we can develop a starting point that is going to take years to develop, and that's why I need people to be very honest in your discussion and your points that you're thinking about, or maybe later on something might come to mind that we're not presently talking about that we can hash out again. I'm certainly open to that. But anybody else want to share your opinion, please? I'm open to the floor. And we can't have people being quiet, okay? That's against the rule. You can't come in here and not talk about anything. You've been invited because I knew that you could make a contribution. I know from previous contacts that we've had that you are significant. Evelyn, I think you might want to speak. Is that right?
Yes, I'm driving. I Unfortunately, I couldn't get at the beginning of the meeting. My niece called and her daughter passed unexpectedly this morning, so I had to go deal with that crisis. But from what I've gleaned in the time that I've been online, first of all, I greet each of you in the divine spirit and the heart of the Most High, Yah Creator. I thank you all for being here. Tyrone, I thank you for inviting me to be a part. We have, I believe, been chosen for such a time as this, and I will continue to say that I feel as though I'm part of a transition team. The truth of who I am as a person of the diaspora, born of the Black race. We've got all these titles. I was born in '64, so one day I woke up in my 50th revolution around the sun, and I recognized that nothing had really changed. All of the history and there was so much that I didn't even know about myself or as a people. And I believe that now we are in an age of where the truth and the knowledge is coming forth, but there are so many voices, and there have been so many lies, and deceptions are abounding. But as a part of this opportunity to be a voice, and as Tyrone has said eloquently, to begin to tell his story, to be the new history, to basically pull ourselves together, unified on the truth that we have been created in the image and likeness of the Most High God, that we have all of these different terms and languages and dialects. We've got all of this, but what we can do is unify around that truth, that basic principle, that understanding that will help the subsequent generations not have to struggle like we have had to struggle. We all know the lies now. We're beginning to understand that timing is everything. There, when I think of Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark, these men, they were talking years, and I had no idea that we had this rich truth in our cultures, but our people were so blinded. Well, now we understand that the principles to which we all believe, they were lies. Our fathers have lied to us, and we have been lied to. So now the truth will stand and declare itself, and all we need to do is unify around that, and the truth will do what the truth was always meant to do, to set us free. And that's all I have to say for right now.
Evelyn, is beautifully stated. I'm going to come back to you again in the future because you have a talent, and I can see songs being developed if in fact you guys want to move forward with this. And there is an uphill, but we are who we are, and we are made to be in His likeness. And if we are in His likeness, we have the ability to overcome any possible hurdle that might come before us. I'm a firm believer in that. But anyways, Mr. Brother Means, did you care to chime in? I see that you're on. I don't know if you're able to talk. Okay, you might be.
I can't talk, brother.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Brother Tyrone.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
I wanted to say something. Miss Evelyn spoke so eloquently. I agree with everything that she says, but I wanted to basically bring up the one of the items that she mentioned. We need to basically teach our children. We need to teach the youth, but to some degree, some of the youth will not listen. And sometimes we have to allow them to go through that struggle, because that's the only thing that sometimes open up their eyes. And so the thing is, when I grew up, we experienced some of those things, but when I experienced one of the first things, that was enough to open up my eyes because I didn't want to go through that struggle, that trial again. And so sometimes when we basically give everything to our youth, some of them just don't listen. And we just have to basically allow them. We still have to give them everything that they need. But when they don't listen, they have to go through that struggle in order to see where we're coming from. So I'm for everything that that was said today. I see it in the school system. Students do not want to learn. They don't care about learning until it's something that they really need in order to achieve something that they want. So, but that was my 2 cents. I'm learning today. That's why I hadn't said very much, and I appreciate everything that was said today. But I just wanted to put that part there because I tell my children, I give them all the information, everything that they need. And I told them I really, history was one of my strong courses back in the day. I love history. Um, but if I hadn't gone through what I went through in order to appreciate where I came from, I wouldn't be appreciating today. But so we have to basically go through some things in order to appreciate where we're going and where we came from.
Dr. Cook always beautifully stated, and I always, love your contribution. We're talking about empowerment. Um, I think I'm not a biblical scholar, so please don't laugh at me when I say things that are not biblically correct. But scripturally, I think I've heard that the question was asked, how can a man be born again? And we understand it's not a physical birth, right? Again, I'm just kind of talking this thing out. If a man scripturally and spiritually can be born again, it meant that there's something about him in that current state that he might be in that he don't really know who he is until he comes to the light of understanding. And I sincerely believe that our race need to be born again. And it's through the changing of the mind. And if we can change the minds of millions of people to see themselves in the image and the likeness of God, I think progress for our race will be on the road to healing. And it's not to, by any means, to create a war, which I'm thinking clearly that there will be issues, no doubt about it. But we are considered, and you guys have got to be honest about this, my opinion, that we are the lowest perceived human being on the planet Earth. And it's been by design that we've been put in that position, that we are the lowest scales of human existing. And unfortunately, many of our people act out because of that poor image of self. So if we can change the image of how we see ourselves, how we see others who look like us, think about the fact that in Nigeria, for instance, I know that I've studied 77% of the people in Nigeria bleach their skin. They bleach their skin. Now, if they understood that you are made in the image and the likeness of the Most High, why would you bleach your skin? There's no need for that.
Brother
There's something.
Tyrone,
Go on, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I want to say this right quick because I believe it'll give credence to what you're expressing. In the 3rd grade, my oldest sister committed suicide. Her death was ruled a suicide at 22 years old on her birthday.
Wow.
She had been the unfortunate victim of an abusive relationship. I don't ever remember not having a spiritual connection or divine connection, or in the terms of Christianity where I was raised and socialized. I don't ever remember not being born again or not knowing God. I found myself as a child having many spiritual experiences, but when my sister committed suicide and I was socialized and taught and indoctrinated to believe that suicide was the unpardonable or the unforgivable sin, I said in the third grade that I did not want to serve a God who would allow a beautiful soul like my sister to go to hell when the perpetrator and the person who caused her so much despair and grief, and I witnessed her abuse, was allowed to live. I cannot tell you all how this voice or this spirit within me spoke so loudly, but because of my own state of as a fatherless child, the spirit was revealed to me to be a father. He said to me, when you allow another to define your worth, you make them your God. I'll say that again. When you allow another to define your worth, you make them your God.
That is so beautiful.
So,
yeah.
so you understand what I'm saying? So when we have allowed another race, being, a people, a government to define our worth, then we have made them our God. And until we go back to the Creator and receive and accept his definition of who he's made us to be in his image and likeness, and as my sister said, piggybacking on what I said earlier, our young people don't want to hear what we're saying. They don't want to listen, but that is because they are believing another God. That is because the God of this world has blinded their mind and their eyes, right? That is because they are patterning themselves after a definition that has erroneously defined their worth. Okay, so where does that leave us? But to uphold the truth and express that truth in the media giftings that we have, in the talents that we have, in the literature, that they, when they want to change our thinking and that what they've done, someone says, tell a lie long enough and it'll become the truth. They'll believe it as truth. In every platform and way that we can share the knowledge of the truth, that you are in a clear and present danger, that you're being lulled into a state of, you have been lulled into a state of apathy, that you have been made to think of yourself less than. And until we can hone that message in such a way that the people will begin to see the lie for what it is, but more than see the lie, because we do see it, understanding the truth, that they are allowing someone else to define their worth. That is how we overcome this. We have to help them see the clear and present danger of allowing another to define your worth, and show how by living out that lie, you are declaring that is this your God? Is this who you're bowing down to? You see, and that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
No, thank you for your 3 million cents, please. Anybody else care to discuss their personal thoughts and feelings about this? Because then I'm going to see if, in fact, you guys want to move on this action, which I think we all kind of perceive it might be some benefits, but it's going to take work. But I don't want to jump into anything because I realize one person alone can achieve very little. But are there any other comments anybody care to share? And again, don't come in here to be quiet. Media guy says in today's world, there are Black people who have been charged with Arabic, and that is the biggest thing that they need to be changed. Okay. Reading comments been posted out in the chat room. I'm sure the restlessness exists throughout the world. Rebirth is an ancient African concept. So here's my thought, bottom line thought, and this has been resting in my spirit. Should we move forward with this? I want us to think about this for a minute, as I have for some time now. Should we venture out to do this, I want God to be proud of us. Think about what I just said. I want the Most High, however you classify. I want God to be proud of us for what we're going to do. Because there's no way that I think that in the spirit realm that he's happy with what has happened to the people who was created in his image and in his likeness. He deserves all these things. But if we can take this task upon ourselves, I want him to be proud of us. As any child want their parents to be proud of them. This is a whole different spectrum of thought. I want our grand spiritual Most High to be proud of us. So if you guys you think this is something we can take up, I'm going to ask you to share your opinion about it. Mr. Ross, you have any thoughts about it?
Unmute.
Yes, sir, please.
I say, take a look at blackgrowthanddevelopment.com and the attachment, the PowerPoint attachment that it has. And that will get us out of the situation we're in. It also covers a section having to do with changing our minds because we have media, because we have people like Jay-Z, who has a wife and a daughter now, and many others that have families. There's those that would be willing, if they see a plan, to go with it. I say the 10-year Black Growth and Development Plan is the way to go. That's my focus.
Okay, sir. Look, everybody, please go into the chat and make sure you download the website and save it to your save file, if you will, please. Okay. Now, Mr. Ross, I thank you for your comment. Dr. Cook, I think you commented, but now we're asking, is this something you guys feel like you want to pursue? It's going to be a lot of work, should it happen. But are you willing to make new history? So that's what everybody has to realize. We're talking about making new history. Dr. Cook, would you like to be a part of that, or would you like to consider it? Or maybe think about it before you make any kind of decision towards this concept?
Well, I am actually for it, and I already thought that we were making new history with some of the other items or things that we are doing. But this, I am for this as well. I'm always there for making new history.
Okay,
Always.
thank you. Nubia, I got to ask you, please. You got to voice your opinion.
Um, I think that to decide on which human image you're going to use, is it going to be a man or a woman? Because I've heard everybody in this chat besides myself during this discussion state that God was a man. God was a sexless force, woman, man, who created, the Most High, the energy that created. I don't like to use the word God. I think you have to decide that, because in the ancient traditions, and I really rely on them because they ruled the world for at least 12,000 years before the rest of everybody else was into anything. Developed the first spiritual systems, and I think that they used women because of their ability to birth, to be creators physically. And I think that you have to decide whether it's going to be, as a group, to decide whether it's going to be male or female. We already know the image is going to be Black. That's a done deal, I think, with everybody in this group from everybody's comments. But you know, what are you going to use to represent? Are we going to go back to those images of ancient images of Set, which people commonly call Isis? Or we're going to create something new? I think that creating new can also be a return to old traditions, which I think are the most holistic, if you understand the culture. In all of Africa, the matrilineal culture is dominant throughout the culture, throughout Africa, except when incorporated with foreign cultures, Islam and other kind of things, when patriarchy plays a part. And in these ancient cultures, that was not true. It's just, you know, it's just we have to make a lot of decisions, have a lot of open and honest discussions, because everybody has, I'm sure, their ideas. But what, are we going to get an artist to create our new image? Are we, can we select an artist? There are plenty of artists around who would love you to use their image. There are plenty of images around already that can be used, with the sanction, these, approved and sanctioned by the artist. So we got a big thing. There's, I would vote to use the Shrine of Black Madonna image that has been used for a long time. And some of these Madonnas, these Christ mothers that are used all over the world, besides the United States, even places throughout Europe where the Madonna and child is Black, So I just think we have to get some thought onto how we want to approach it, at least select the image.
I agree with my sister to the extent that we do have to come together. I looked in here to see how many of us are here. It's 7 of us here. 7 is a very significant number where I come from. I want to throw this in the discussion. In my studies, the creator is represented as both male and female. You have the Adonai measure or the El Shaddai measure, the multi-breasted one. And because we are beings created in his image and likeness, or her image and likeness, though Western religions, those religions outside the origin of understanding, have placed the patriarchal aspect higher. But when my little brief, I don't even dare to sound like I know, like Sister Nubia does, about Kemet. I'm a new student, and I am a perpetual student, ever learning. But it is my understanding from the things that I've learned through Dr. Tony Browder. You see a man and a woman, you see both energies. You see the masculine energy and the female energy ruling together. And because we are a species that are both male and female, I believe that that is how we should express this imagery, because they rule side by side. And sister, you can correct me, because again, I'm a new babe in that area. But I believe, again, as I stated earlier, in my need, the understanding not really forced by any human being, I think, but for me as a fatherless child, that revelation came to me and has always come to me as a male energy or a male presence. Okay. Others, it might be different. And I think because there's 7 of us here, that there's 7 continents, there's 7 churches, we each come from a different aspect and perspective. But there is, what we have to find is that unifying truth, and how to present what we're grasping to collectively come together with. And so I will encourage us, and I myself give this some time of meditation. I think Brother Lawrence has said to go and look at his material, which I will do, because if that is the contribution that you are bringing here, then we all need to at least be diligent enough to go and see what he is saying, because it might be therein might lie the linchpin or the hub for us to, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because we each are bringing something to this moment in time. So thank you, sis. We can always learn. I would love to learn more, but I think we should just be mindful as varying perspectives as we have. That's how we're going to have to approach this, because people are coming, and what truth does is, if it is true, and you will resonate with truth, the spirit of man will always resonate with truth. We just need to find a way to present what is truth, and be that the Madonna, or I know somewhere in my findings in my researching, it said, don't create anything in my image or likeness, because how do you create an image and a likeness of one who's the creator of all that is, and all that is so varying to degrees that we have still no knowledge of, right? So I don't know where we put that. That's my little contribution in 2 cents.
Again, thank you very much to you and Nubia. Mr. Sims, you care to comment, sir? And the thought that I want you to comment about, today was about a discussion for the possibility of taking a path to create new history. And with that creation of new history, we're saying that we want to make person of color, the Black man, the Black woman, the African man, African woman, understand who their real image is and of. So you have any comments, sir?
No, I'm good. I'm listening and learning.
Okay. So you would, that means what? I'm sorry, but that means if we started to do something, would you be part of that?
It's for me, Tyrone, it's hard to decide who are we. Our history has been destroyed. We don't know if we Israelites, Native Americans, Africans, or what. We need to define the scope of who we are first before we can step forward. Are we just going? If I look in Jeremiah 14:2, it says, let me get it right quick. I had to get it called back up. It said, Judah mourn, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and they cry of Jerusalem is gone. And to me, that could be the starting ground. We all Black Israelites, or we're not. We got to start somewhere to identify who we are before we can claim who we are. And
But-
there's got to be a ground zero.
Let me ask you this. There's no dispute or no question about how the world see us. Would you agree to that? And the world don't see us as being significant.
I agree that, but
Okay,
sometime the weak always had to pull down the strong.
okay. Got you, sir. Whom else have not commented? Brother Means, I know you're not feeling your best today, but do you care to make a comment, sir? If we decide to take this path, and we're not talking about jumping into something immediately, but should we do, it's going to be a lot of work, and 7 people right now is wonderful, but we're talking about, you got to envision, guys, that if this thing is done in the right way, we will, in effect, unite billions of people all across the world to be born again. Let me put it that way. Brother Means, you have anything to say, sir? I don't know if you're still on. Okay, you may not be in this meeting because I know you're in multiple meetings all the time. So does anybody else have any parting shots that you want to? I'm not trying to close the door Anyone
I want
at
to
any
say
time,
something.
please speak
Yeah,
freely.
I wanted to just say, human. I have to do some research, but when you look up the word human, and I do believe that we were both created and made. I believe that a brother said it like this: when God wanted to make a thing, he spoke to the thing that he wanted it made of. And whatever he said to the thing that he wanted it made of, it made what he said. When God wanted to make a thing, he spoke to the thing that he wanted it made of. And whatever he said to the thing that he wanted it made of, it made what he said. So when God wanted to make the fish of the sea, he spoke to the water and it made what he said. When he wanted to make the plants and the herbs, he spoke to the soil and it, but when God wanted to make mankind, our kind, he spoke to himself. And not only did he speak to himself, but he then formed man out of the dust of the ground. If we believe that account, based on what my sister was saying about uh, the scientific fact, because I believe it has been proven that in the species of us, that the earth, we have the same makeup of the soil. You know, I'm just saying here. And so if that be the truth, then we don't have too far to go, that if you have hue in you, okay, then you are of a particular species or kind. And what we do see about this, there's varying complexions of us because of the interracials. And but when you talk about the substance, now we're not talking about and I'm not speaking to the fact that the substance has been mutated to different ethnic, I can't say that word, ethnicities, okay? But what I'm saying is the substance, even if you're of a different ethnic, you're still of that substance that makes you human, you see. And then if we can all identify and agree that we are human, and if those first humans were Black people or dark-skinned people or come from that continent of the Black race. I'm just even learning about how we even came up with this, the Dark Ages, when Blacks literally ruled the world. Because back then there was no colorism like we have been made to be programmed by now. But the fact of the matter is that humankind is under attack. And it's going to take the original people who understand that, be you Hebrew Israelite, be you Egyptologist. I mean, these are labels, but the substance of who we are is human, right? And so that's where I land with that, because I'm like what my brother Mean said. I think it was brother Sim said, you know, we've got all these different, who are we? In United States, first we were Negro, then we were colored, and now we've ended up Black. And I really don't know what Black is, because that does not, and African American, but that does not denote us as a people. We don't, you know, if you're Chinese, you come from China. If you're Italian, you come from it, you know. So we know those things are out there. But my thing is human, you know. Let's teach the truth of us being human. Okay. If we want to then talk about and have dialogue about our different aspects of our humanity as a species, as a kind, then we can go there. But that's my 2 cents on that as well.
I
Y'all
think
help
you,
me. I'm trying. Y'all help.
listen, my prayers for you, mere fact that you're dealing with a death in your family and you're thoughtful enough to come on, I'm very grateful. Again, let's leave with the thought, if you will, that should we take on this task, it would be something that we would want the Most High, God, whatever, to be proud of us. That's a whole different frame of thought if you think about it. We're talking
Well,
about us little bit of human life as we live our life. Seeking the, okay, I'm sorry,
Go-
Nubian, go on.
Go ahead, Tyrone. I want you to finish your thought.
No, I said to have the high spirit to be proud of us, what we're trying to accomplish. But go on, please.
I think that we're doing is pretty much is similar to what they did at the Nicene Conference, in the year one. You know what I mean? I think it was, Nicene Conference may have been about the year one. And what they did is as I mentioned before, is they changed it from being the Most High's, being the Divine Trinity, being Black people, to what the Western image, and they hired their best artisans to come up with these best images, and that was some years later, 1,000 years later. And the Ethiopians had images already that they were using for the Most High. So I think that what we're doing now is what we're trying to do at this juncture is to return to the truth. But the truth is according to the Dogon, in the book Conversations with Ogatameli by Marcel Breuil. This book was published in 1956, and this is a very good book to get, because the Dogon encompass all of the sacred traditions, and they've been the keepers of the sacred traditions from all over, from the most ancient of times, before written times. And they wrote these traditions down, and they have committed it to their memory. So it's even more ancient than anybody can measure. And they say truth has more than 33 phases. And so when the sister was saying what the truth also is a matter of perspective. There are people who are Hebrew Israelite, there are people Christian, there are people that are neither on here. And so there isn't the truth. There are many truths. And the balance that we want to strike here is the best as we see it, as from all of our perspectives. So what we're trying to do is a very sacred and divine thing. And we're doing it in the best spirit that we know possible, to restore our people. And this task was also taken on by the people of the 25th dynasty in Kush, that wanted to restore their people to their traditional greatness. And that's, Tyrone, that's what you want of us. I mean, quite a huge task, quite a noble task. Those people took that task upon themselves, and they stayed in place, making sure that task happened for about 120 years. Okay? They passed on from a grandfather to uncles, to brothers, to sons. Unfortunately, the Assyrians took it over, and then it went back to Assyria, which is now Syria. But they're Christians, so they took up what they went to the Roman narrative. So I think that what you're doing, what we're all agreeing to do, is to give this thought in how we want to do it. But remember that truth has more than one face. It has several.
You're here and you're making your contribution. Everybody who are here, you're here because you're supposed to be. I don't know any other way to say that. We are talking and we're expressing our thoughts because we're supposed to be doing this. And the time that we're devoting to what we're doing is what is called upon us to do. Maybe you didn't know about it 10 years ago, a month ago, but now you're a part of it, I hope. But I think the ultimate thing I will go back to, should we move forward with this, we want our divine Most High to be proud of us, to be very proud of what we are doing. if we can change the image of how people see themselves. Look, I've been emotionally in tears a lot of times when, for instance, I saw the people in the Bantu Somalians living in water conditions, houses that was made of rags that they were able to find and create homes. And in some instances, the beds that they slept in was wet because of the water that had flooded the area. There were mosquitoes that were there to make them very uncomfortable. But yet and still, these people survived. But they were looking out to the world spiritually, and I heard some of them say, "God will save us." But they've lost sight of who God made. They are made in His image, and I've seen conditions in Africa that I know the Most High would not be proud of. I don't think He would look down upon the earth, and then I created these people in my image to be in a condition they're in. I don't think so. But again, it's my thought. But I hope that if you guys agree to it, we will do a monthly discussion in advance what we are going to do. Should we do anything? And please, by all means, write down some of your thoughts, how you see if in fact what we're able to do becomes a reality. What are some of the things you perceive that will take place? It could be mainly t-shirts might be made, songs could be developed, all kinds of things can happen in today's world. This is the power of the internet that we have. And I said to many before, when my ancestor, who was a slave, and there were slaves in my family, when they got over here from their original place of birth and they landed in the Americas, they did not have the means to call home or to send a text, say, "Mom, Dad, I made it safe." We were cut off from our ancestors at that point, totally cut off for good. But now we can connect in such ways that was not possible with our early ancestors. So everybody, I'm grateful that you're here today. Hopefully we will connect even stronger than what we have today. Hopefully when we do connect, you guys will have different thoughts, no matter what they are. If they're against what we're talking about, that's fine. Be willing to share your thoughts because that's part of your feelings. And this is part of what we can do if we're going to make new history. Okay. So with that, I want to summarize it. I'm grateful to everybody who made it. Evelyn, special prayers to you and your family for what you're going through. And Nubian, you are certainly a person I have I'm greatly admired, and I'm trying to get people to come to your site to promote their businesses as well. Dr. Cook, thank you always for being a great supporter. And Mr. Sims, sir, we got to see you one day in Africa Town, okay?
Whenever you get ready, brother.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that being said, we're going to conclude our meeting, but I'm grateful. And everybody be blessed and all your undertakings.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Mr. Ross, thank you so much too.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyrone. Hold on a second. I'm still copying out of the
Look at the website.
chat.
Check the website. Check the
We're
website.
we're gonna check the website. We're gonna check,
Please.
we're gonna check the website.
Mr. Ross, you're going to have to do some discussion about that separately from this meeting, okay?
I would like that.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you, sir. You guys
Okay.
be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Don't hang up yet, Tyrone. I want to copy this out of the chat, please.
Okay,
Take
All right.
care, everyone. Be blessed.
thank
It
you,
was a
Dr.
pleasure.
Cook.
Blessings.
Nice speaking to everybody.
Be
Yes.
blessed, everybody. Please.
All right, brother Tyrone. I think I've got it. Thank you so much.
All right, be great.
All right.
Take care.
All right. You
Bye-bye.
do too. Bye bye.